call this meeting to order. First item on the agenda.
Teresa, is your mic on?
I'll just work it out. Can you hear me?
Oh, there she is. I couldn't a minute ago. There we go. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, it is 6:01, now 6:02. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Would everyone please rise for a moment of silence, and Mr. Stepp will lead us in the pledge. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for being here tonight. Let's go ahead and do a roll call of the members. Ms. Stoll? Here. Mr. Safdie? Here. Ms. Nichols? Here. Ms. Hale? Here. Ms. Stout?
Here.
And Mr. King?
Here.
And German is present. We are missing Miss Rebecca Hamby and Mr. Davis. Thank you. Will you please do Mr. Patton, do our declaration?
Board members, Tennessee Code, Title 49, Chapter 2, Section 202 defines relative as a spouse, parent, parent-in-law, child, son-in-law, daughter-in-law, grandparent, grandchild, brother, sister, uncle, aunt, nephew, niece, or any person that resides in the same household as you. Any of you that have such a relative is defined by statute. If you would please raise your right hand.
Okay, let the record reflect Mr. King has his hand raised.
Mr. King, is that the case?
It is.
Thank you, sir. And Ms. Boston has her hand raised. So each of you, do you hereby certify that the votes that you make tonight will be in the best interest of the Cumberland County school system, regardless of the effect that your vote may have on the employment of your relatives?
I do.
I do.
Let the record reflect they both affirm.
Thank you. Okay, perfect. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the June minutes. We have the June 22nd minutes, and we have the June 28th minutes.
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve.
Second.
And we have a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, next on the agenda, we have the approval of the agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
We have a first,
Second.
and we have a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much. Tabitha, can you hear? Okay, she can hear you.
Okay, good.
Okay. At this time, I would like to welcome everyone here. Ms. Mull, I think you're our only elected official, and we certainly appreciate you taking your time to join us. Thank you. Ms. Mull does a great job on the commission. Next on the agenda is the community comments, and I think we have a couple of young ladies who would like to address the board. So, would someone keep time?
Dan.
Tabitha, can you? If you would come up, state your name, the topic of your discussion, your address. I'm assuming you attend school, so go ahead and give us that as well. And you may come up. This is Ms. Carrie Houston.
Good evening. My name is Carrie Houston, and I'm the senior class president at SMHS, as well as a member of the tennis team. And today I am here on behalf on all the tennis team to encourage you to support tennis. Last season, my team made school history. My team made the top 8 in our division as a team, and our individual top 4 players made it to regions. One, in fact, sitting in this room right now, made it to state, finishing in the top 8 in the individual singles, which is a huge accomplishment.
Amen.
And there's also, we also had a boys team for the first time since I've been in high school, so that was a win. But our success last year was definitely due to our court availability, practice time. But I'm here today, I don't know if you're aware, but our courts are in rough condition. They're filled with cracks. We only have 4 of the 6 original ones that are available to play on. And we need 4 courts to host a tennis match in the high school. And I'm concerned after this winter what may happen to them. And we also don't have lights as well. And SMHS is the only public tennis courts in Cumberland County, no state park, no city, etc. And I would just like to say we're not really in position to share with anyone. We already share with the middle school, which is fine, because we practice an hour and a half to 2 hours a day. And when you have 3 hours after school, it's kind of hard to cram everybody in that amount of time. Mm-hmm. But I'm not here to point any fingers or anything. I'm just here to make you guys aware of the situation we have in hand. And if you could consider getting SMHS some more court maintenance and some lights, it definitely would help us this season. I know that tennis is only growing. We had 50 kids approximately in Cumberland County in tennis last year. And with your new middle school basketball and cheer, there's going to be kids that normally are playing basketball cheer, just looking for a place to go. And I just would like to say, don't forget tennis. We really just want a place to play. Court maintenance and lights could be nice. And it really serves a purpose and has really impacted many of my lives. I mean, many of my life and all my other players' lives. So thank you for your time and good day.
Thank you.
Now we have a Miss Stephanie Turner.
Hello, members of the board. My name is Stephanie Turner. I'm a rising senior this year at Cumberland County High School. I've been on the tennis team the last 3 years. I'm planning to be my 4th. I come today in regards to the situation we've been placed in this year. So as many of you know, we are building an auditorium at CCHS, and that auditorium has been placed on 2 of the courts that were usable that we had. Though we have 8 courts at CCHS, only 3 to 4 of those were able to be used the last couple of years, and now 2 of those have been taken away, while the ones that are remaining are not going to be able to be used this season due to the construction process. And as my fellow tennis player stated, we don't have any city courts that our games can be held at. And so we've just been placed in that situation where we aren't sure if we're going to be able to have a season this year, and if we do, where are we going to play? So I come today to just ask you all if there's anything that you can do to help tennis this year, help us to have a season, because we are continuing to grow. It supports our community in a way that we don't even recognize sometimes, I think. But also, I know it's impacted my life a great amount, and it pushes me to be more competitive, but also more compassionate whenever it comes to who I play and who I'm playing against. And I just know, like, my team involvement has been amazing as well. So I just want us to realize the fact that we don't have anything available to us unless the board is able to help us in some way, and we really don't have an option unless you all can help us some. So I come today just to ask you all for your help and your support as this tennis season approaches, and help us through that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Stepp, you were going to check into the tennis court situation. What
We're
have you-
assessing the county, but it's like they said, there's very limited access to tennis courts in the county.
What about Fairfield Lane? Have we looked at it?
We're asking all communities
Yeah.
Have we had
what's
any
usable.
success?
Not that I'm aware of. We're still working on it though, so we're trying to find whatever we can find to use for the kids. I know Mr. Patton was working on it, and now Dr. Maddox is working on it. So we're actively trying to find them access so they can have a great season. So that's what we're working on.
When does your season start?
We usually start practice in February, but sometimes we can start conditioning earlier than that, all the way in January, even in sometimes the months right after winter break.
So You're going to give us just a little bit of time.
We're gonna get on this.
That's why we wanted to come early so we can try to address the situation and get something figured out in time for the season to go as it usually does.
Well, I thank you, lovely
Very much.
ladies, for
Yes,
stepping up.
thank you so much.
And coming to this board and making us aware.
thank
We
you.
have been aware of the tennis courts now for a couple of years. And we understand and we know.
Yeah,
But we're going to
doing our best.
pick up the pace just a little bit and try to find you girls somewhere to practice so that you can have a successful season.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Awesome.
That was refreshing. I appreciate that.
Motivating.
Okay, moving on. Next on the agenda is school board reports. Ms. Stout, their TLN report.
Yeah. Well, I don't have a real long one because we all just went to the legislative and law
Exactly.
summer session with TSBA. But just a couple things a couple reminders, couple things I wanted to bring to everybody's attention. So the USDA, ahead of the school season starting, came out with a couple of things that I think are going to be helpful to our district here. One of them is some additional monies to help defer the supply chain changes and rising food costs. And I pulled up our information for the state of Tennessee, and it looks like the state of Tennessee is just getting a little over $25 million in addition to the funds that we had coming in already for our food program.
Awesome.
So how that's dispersed, we'll have to see, but hopefully it'll help Miss Hamby and her folks and the kids. And then another change that they were looking at is making the free meals more accessible to students. And they haven't finalized everything yet, but what they're looking at doing is lowering the minimum threshold for a school district's eligibility. Right now it's 40% for the CEP eligible, and they're looking at doing 25%. So it looks like we might get a little more relief with that too. So hopefully some good information to come with that. Just a reminder, if the board wanted to work on any resolutions to turn into TSBA for this upcoming legislative session, our resolution deadline is September 19th. The Department of Education safety grant deadline, which that was that new safety grant that came out with the new laws this year, is the 29th of September. So hopefully we're rolling on that for the safety grant monies, okay? And then we have our new Commissioner of Education, Ms. Reynolds, that was sworn in and took office on the 1st of July. So,
Cool.
and that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I know that the majority of the board just got back from our Law Institute. Would anyone like to speak on that? And do a report that, we all had a great time, lots of information, obviously.
Lots of information, but it was good. It was
Some
very
that we
thorough.
will be visiting and some that you just go, oh gosh.
I was glad our board attorney sat next to me. I asked a lot of questions.
So we could explain things.
I
as we
know,
go.
I said, hey, it was good.
It's very helpful. Very,
Yes,
very
he
helpful.
was. He was very helpful.
Speaking of our board attorney, Mr. Patton, would you like to give us our legal report?
Yes, ma'am. There are a couple matters of pending litigation that the board has. The one against the board is the Kirkman versus Cumberland County Board of Education case. I spoke with Ken Williams on that matter earlier in the month. They're still conducting discovery, and I've marked it on my calendar to follow up with him in October. I think we'll know a little bit more at that point. It's just one of those situations where the wheels of justice turn slow, but we'll know a little bit more in a few months on that case. The other matter is the Jewel litigation. I've been waiting to hear an update on that from the last time that I updated the board. I have not heard anything recently, but I will reach out to the firm involved in that, and I'll have something more for the board next week. Another matter on my legal report are the results of the board self-evaluation and the superintendent evaluation from last month. I will guess maybe it would be best if I came up front for that. So if you'll just bear with me, I'll come around. start with the results of the performance evaluation for Mr. Stepp. As you know, the board gave 1 through 5 ratings to Mr. Stepp in a series of categories, including board relationship, community relationships, staff and personnel relationships, educational leadership, business and finance, and strategic planning skills. Board was asked to assign a number to each category. For 1 would mean never meets expectations, 2 seldom meets expectations, 3 usually meets expectations, 4 consistently meets expectations, and 5 exceeds expectations. Under the category of board relationship, the first question was, or the first comment was, keeps all board members informed on issues, needs, and operation of the school system. On all of these categories, you will see that there are obviously differing opinions of board members. I know that's shocking that each of you have different opinions about anything. But, you know, I will note that there are some extreme answers on both ends of the spectrum. And for that reason, I'm not 100% sure how valuable averages really are in a situation like this. But it's important to note, I think, that, so under keeps all board members informed on issues, needs, and operation of the school system, we had answers ranging from 5 down to 2. The average of the board was 3.67, placing somewhere between usually meets expectations and consistently meets expectations. The next answer was supports board policy and actions to the public and staff. Again, you had answers ranging from 5 down to 2. The average among all 9 board members was 3.89. Again, scaling up to consistently meets expectations. The 3 has a harmonious relationship with the board. There were answers between 4 and 2 on that comment, and the average of all 9 board members was 3.33. Again, slightly above usually meeting expectations. Upon request, provides clear explanations of alternatives for recommendations. Had answers ranging from 5 down to 2. And the average of all 9 board members was 3.78. Again, close to consistently meeting expectations. And works toward creating and maintaining a high degree of understanding and respect between staff and the board. Your answers range from 5 down to 2. The average of the board was 3.89. The next question was advises the board on need for new or revised policies. Your answers ranged from 5 down to 2. The average was 3.89. Advises the board on need for new or revised policies. Answers ranged from 5 down to 2 on the low extreme. Again, that's the average there was 3.89. Refrains from criticism of the board or members of the board. Your answers ranged from 5 down to 2 or down to 1 in the extreme end. The average was 3.78. Exercises good judgment and objectivity in making recommendations to the board. Your answers ranged from 5 to 2, and the average was 3.89. Offers professional advice to the board on items requiring board action with appropriate recommendations. That category ranged from 5 down to 2 on the extreme end. The average was 4, consistently meeting expectations. Understands and executes the intent of board policy. Your answers ranged from 5 down to 2, and the average was 3.67. Seeks and accepts constructive criticism of his work. Your answers averaged at 3.89. They ranged from 5 to 2. Keeps board informed of employment, promotion, and dismissal of personnel. Your answers range from 5 to 2, and the average was 4. Under the category of community relationships, first question the comment was, the director of schools is an effective spokesperson for the school system. Answers range from 5 to 3, and the average was 4.44. Is respected and supported by the community in conducting the operation of the schools. Answers range from 5 to 3, and your average was 4.44. Builds public support for the school district. Your answers range from 5 down to 3. The average of all of your responses was 4.56. Defends principles in the face of pressure or partisan influence. Your answers range from 5 to 3 at the low extreme. The average was 4.33. Develops cooperative relationships with the news media. 5 at the highest and 3 at the lowest. The average is 4.33. Participates actively in community life and affairs. Your answers range from 5 to 3. Your average overall was 4.56. Achieves status as a community leader in public education. You had mostly 5s there with a few 3s, so you had 4.33 total. Works effectively with public and private agencies. Answers range from 5 down to 3. The average is 4.44. Establishes strong relationships with public and private agencies. Your answers ranged from 5 down to 3 and averaged 4.56. Staff and personnel relationships. Develops good staff morale and loyalty to the organization. Your answers ranged from 5 down to 3, and the average is 4.22, meaning that your responses were somewhere between consistently meeting expectations and exceeding expectations. Treats all personnel fairly without favoritism or discrimination while insisting upon performance of duties. Your responses range from 5 to 2, and the average in that category was 4. Delegates authority to staff members appropriate to the position each holds. Your answers there, again, you had a lot of 5s, and there were a few 4s and a 3. 4.44 average. Recruits and assigns the best available personnel. You had 4 5s, 2 4s, and a 3 and a 2, 3 4s there. 4.11 was the average of those responses. Represents the best interest of the board in working with teachers and their organization. Again, some varying opinions here with between 5 and 2. You had an average of 3.67 on that response. Solicits input from staff in planning activities. You had responses that ranged from 5 to 3. Your average was 4. Maintains up-to-date job descriptions for all personnel. Answers range from 5 down to 3. The average was 4.11. Ensures that adequate planning and evaluation of curriculum and instruction occurs. Your responses range from 5 down to 3 on the low end, and the average is 4.22. Develops and empowers staff, resulting in an effective educational team. Again, your answers range from 5 down to 3. The average is 4.11. Has a vision and communicates a mission for the school system. You had an average of 4.33 in that category. Under the category of educational leadership, understands and keeps informed regarding all aspects of instructional program. Your responses ranges from 5 down to 3. The average is 4.11. Participates with staff, board, and community in studying problem, solving and developing curriculum and instruction. Those responses ranged from 5 down to 3. The average is 4.11. Organizes a planned program of staff evaluation and improvement. Your responses ranged from 5 down to 3. The average is 4.11. models the highest professional standards to staff and community. Your responses ranged from 5 down to 2 in a singular incident, and 4.11 was the average. Is an effective advocate of lifelong learning. There were a lot of 5s in this category and a couple of 3s and a 4. That 4.44 was the average on that category. Creates an environment that encourages staff to constantly strive for improvement. You have responses that range from 5 down to 2. The average was 4. Excuse me. Incorporates technology as a teaching learning strategy. And again, 5s down to a singular incident of 3. 4.33 was the average there. Encourages staff to be innovative in problem solving. You had responses that range from 5 down to 3. The average of all those responses was 4.33. Under business and finance, has an understanding of the needs of the school program, facilities, equipment, supplies, and budget required. Those responses range from 5 down to 2 in one incident, and the 3.89 was the average. Supervises operations, insisting on competent and efficient performance. Those responses range from 5 to 3 and averaged 4. Ensures that funds are spent wisely and adequate control and accounting are maintained. Those responses range from 5 down to 2, and the average was 3.89. Strategic planning skills. Works efficiently with board staff and community to develop both long and short-range strategic plans. Your responses range from 5 down to 2 in one incident, and you've got an average of 4 on that response. Keeps board and community informed of progress towards short and long-range plans. Your responses were from 5 down to 2, had an average of 3.78. Develops a 5-year plan which includes strategies, goals, and projected student outcomes. Your responses there range from 5 down to 3, and the average was 4.44. Overall, I mean, I think this was a good evaluation. It points to a few areas, I think, by the scores that Mr. Stepp will be able to take this and run with it and look at improvements that may need to be made, as well as for the board. So, does anyone have any questions?
Just going through and looking at the averages.
Yes, ma'am.
For where each category scored, it looks like overall, each category came in at a 4.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning overall, the review is consistently meets expectations as a new director.
Anyone else? Okay. I will move on to the board self-evaluation. Again, varying opinions out there, which is a good thing. I think you're certainly supposed to have different opinions about these things. So the category, the rating scale on this self-evaluation tool, this originally came from TSBA, and the rating scale was strongly, 1 meaning strongly disagree or not important, depending on which category you're looking at, whether this evaluation asks you to judge what the current state of affairs is with the board and how important it is to you. And so when you answer 1 on the scale, you're saying that you strongly disagree with the statement, or you're saying that it's not important at all to you. If you answered 6, you strongly agree, or it was an extremely important issue for you. And in looking at this, I think that's kind of telling, and we'll go through those. I expanded this rating scale a little bit just for the purpose of you being able to evaluate averages and see kind of where the board is. I expounded upon it to say that 2 would be mostly disagree or mostly unimportant. 3 would be more disagree than agree, more unimportant than important. 4 would be more agree than disagree, more important than unimportant. 5 would be mostly agree, mostly important. And 6 would be strongly agree or extremely important. On the category of board meetings, the statement was, the board has sufficient time and opportunity to review the agenda and supporting materials before a board meeting. Under the current status, board members answered ranging from 6 down to 3. The average was 4.22, meaning that more, on an average, most of you more agree than disagree. As far as importance goes, mostly those were answered 6. There was an answer of 5 given by one board member. The board encourages participation by each board member. As to the current status, the board averaged 4.11 on that. Board members come to meetings prepared to focus on discussion issues and keep comments relevant and brief. You gave yourselves, on average, a 4 in that category, meaning that as a whole, you more agree than disagree that that's the case. All board members are routinely familiar with the agenda materials and are ready to discuss and decide important items. Under current status, your answers range from 6 down to 3, and the average was 4.44, meaning you scale towards mostly agree in that category.
That item is, I hope in the future we can eliminate that item. I don't know to what degree all my board members are prepared. I really don't, so. Thank you.
All right. Adequate background information on issues to come before the board is routinely provided in advance of the board meeting. Your answers range from 5 down to 3. The average is 4.11, meaning that most of you more agree than disagree that that's the case. The board weighs all decision in terms of what is best for the students of the school system. Your average there was 4.11. Team building, the board is able to disagree on matters and still maintain an attitude of mutual respect and trust. It's a lofty goal. Your average there was 3.67, meaning as a whole, more of you disagree than agree. Well, I take that back. Actually, that scales more towards more agree than disagree. But you're right in between those two. That's one of the lower scores that you have. The board is open and honest with each other and with administrators and able to maintain an attitude of mutual trust and respect. On that current status, you've averaged a 3. You've got several 2s in that category. A lot of you feel like that you mostly disagree with that statement. And I think that's something to keep in mind moving forward and maybe find some ways to work on that. The district has a planned program to orient newly elected board members. You had 6s, 5s, 4s, you had 1, but on average, that was a 4.44 response from the board as a whole. Once a decision has been made, all members respect the decision and the board speaks with one voice. That current status averaged, your responses range from 6 down to 2, and the average is 3.56. So again, some pretty varied opinions on that issue. Board members do not attempt to individually speak on behalf of the board or commit the board. You had answers that ranged from 5 down to 2. The average skewed a little lower, 3.33. Under board superintendent staff relations, the board and superintendent trust and respect one another. You had high answers in that category. The average was 3.56. You had answers that skewed from 6 down to 1 in that one. Each member of the board understands and respects the distinction between the board's responsibilities and the superintendent's duties. Your average there was 4.22. Our board and superintendent agree on how complaints or concerns to board members should be handled. Your answers there range from 6 down to 3. The average was 4. Board members work to avoid surprises by sharing concerns or questions with the superintendent in advance of the board meeting. Your average response there was 3.89. The superintendent is given direction by the board as a whole rather than by individual members. Your responses there ranged from 6 down to 2, and the average was 3.44. The board recognizes staff accomplishments. Your average response there was 5.22, so most of you feel like we're doing pretty good in that department. Individual board members avoid making excessive personal requests from staff. Those responses range from 6 down to 1, and the average there was 4.11. Board members are respectful to other board members, administrators, staff, and visitors. Your responses range from 6 down to 2 in that category, and the average was 4. Board members direct complaints and requests to the superintendent rather than attempting to solve them directly. Your average response there was 4.11. The board ensures that an effective evaluation system is in place for the superintendent and all employees. Your average response was 4.33. Under vision and planning, a vision statement for the district exists and is periodically reviewed by the board and widely disseminated in the district. Your average response to that was 4.67. The vision reflects community priorities. Your average response there was 4.89, so pretty high in these categories. Discussion of major items before the board routinely includes consideration of their impact on meeting district goals. Your responses averaged 4 in that category. The superintendent's evaluation considers how well the superintendent has addressed district goals, and your average response there was 4.67. The board emphasizes setting and monitoring district goals instead of how staff should achieve these goals. Your average response there was 4.33. The board does not get bogged down discussing operation details of the district or schools. Your average response there was 3.78. You had some varying opinions there, 6s down to a 1 in one instance. The board regularly solicits input from the community when establishing the future vision of the district. Responses there range from 6 down to 3. Your average is 4.44. Under board policy, our board sets policies needed for the operation of the school district. Your average response there was 5.44. Most of you felt pretty positive about the current status of the board. Before adopting a policy which affects them, our board actively seeks the input of employees, students, and community members. You had answers that range from 6 down to 3. Your average was 4.44. Board policies are administered consistent with the intent of the policy. Your average answer was 5.22. The board has developed an ongoing system to review and update all policies annually. Your average response to that question was 5.44. The board holds itself ultimately responsible for high achievement by all students. Your average response was a 4. The board regularly examines data to determine where achievement gaps exist and how much progress is being made to reduce those gaps. Your current status answer ranged from 6 down to 1 in one instance, and the average was 3.33. The The board provides a quality educational program imposing high individual academic standards for each student. Student academic performance is regularly presented to the board. Average response to that was 3.89. The board regularly recognizes student accomplishments at board meetings. Your average response there was 5.22. Under the category of board community relations, the board provides for involvement of the public in the operating of our schools. Your answers range from 5 down to 3, or 6 down to 3, excuse me, and you had an average of 4.67. Our board actively promotes the school district to the public. Your average response was 4.56. Our school board is respected in the community. Your average response was 3.56. You had answers that range from 6 down to 1. And our board is accountable to the community. And on that, the average response was 4.89. The board refrains from committing to a position on an issue before all relevant facts are present. You gave yourselves a 3.89 in that category. And you also gave yourselves a 3.89 in members of the board refrain from speaking for the board on issues which the board has no official position. Under advocacy, our board takes the initiative to establish and maintain positive personal relationships with other locally elected officials / the funding body. You gave yourselves a 4.11 in that category on average. Our board strives to keep local officials up to date on board activities and school district needs. On average, you had another 4.11 in that category. Our board understands the need to influence statewide legislation and works diligently to develop positive relationships with local members of the legislature. That was a 4.78 on average. Our board collectively and individually regularly contacts legislators. That was a 3.89 that you gave yourselves. Our board is represented at TSBA's Day on the Hill meeting. That response on average was 4.89. And there was one board member that gave a 1 in that category that kind of skewed things down. Under budget and finance, the board understands the basic principles of school finance, including state, federal, and local sources of revenue. You've got an average of 4.11 on that response. The budget reflects the strategic plan and supports the district goals and objectives for student achievement and citizenship. Your average answer there was 4. The budget reflects the district's vision and mission. The average response there was 4.56. And lastly, the board requires proper accountability for the expenditure of school district funds. You gave yourselves 5.22 in that category. Now, looking at these and looking at the answers as compared to the things that are important, I think that it's, let's see here. The category where you rated yourselves the lowest was probably team building. You had an average of those scores was 3.6, meaning that I think that area is somewhere where you can make some progress and maybe some thought can be put into that as to how you move forward and maybe improve some of those things. The next area that I would say would maybe the number 2 as the lowest would be the board / superintendent / staff relations. Your average scores there, the average was 4.09, which means, that you mostly agree, more agree than disagree, excuse me, that those statements were true. But clearly, those 2 areas were where most of you felt like maybe there were some improvements that could be made. And so I guess I'll challenge you moving forward to work on those. And if there's anything that I can do to help you in that realm, please let me know. I know you will.
Thank you, Earl. We
Yes, ma'am.
appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, next on our agenda is the director's report. Mr. Stepp?
Okay, the first thing on the report is I got a communication from Mayor Foster, and the county commission was looking at possibly adding a canopy over the gas pumps at the transportation center. They have a estimated cost. Now, this is a work in progress. This isn't a done deal, but they did want to know if the board would support that, and I think the normal split between the county and the school system is 60-40.
We pay 60?
No, they pay for it.
We pay, okay, I like that.
I like that.
That's my
I like
understanding.
that.
Well, that's my understanding. That's what I was told, but
Ms. Bray is nodding.
that's been traditionally what has happened, so,
40, 40, and 20.
yeah.
40-40.
So,
Who said 40, 40?
Ms. Bray.
Ms. Bray.
Okay, so who pays 20?
The other departments in the county, it's 40 us, 40, I think the highway department, then all other departments pay 20%.
Does everybody get gas there? Okay, so the maintenance department for the county would pay part of that 20?
Sheriff's Department.
Sheriff's Department, emergency services, everybody.
Right. Cool.
So they were interested to see if you were willing to be a partner in that.
So our portion would only be 40% of the 42,000?
That's $17,000.
Mr. Stepp, have we gotten feedback from our bus staff departments?
It's needed. It's been talked about since I've been here. That's just a wide open scenario right now, rain, snow, whatever. So the canopy is a good feature to put out there for our employees.
Yeah, I've seen bus drivers out there getting doused.
Policeman.
And the policemen and the EMS. It's like, there's no way, you can't get away from it. You can't hold an umbrella because the wind blows right straight through there.
Well, this has been a discussion for several years. They've just never kind of proposed it to us before. It's always been what do you think? You know, we really need this. And if you've ever watched an officer filling their vehicles
fun.
up and it's pouring the rain, whatever, I would certainly make a motion that Mr. Stepp be given the authority to negotiate this, and then when, up to what, 20,000? Wouldn't you think that would cover it?
My understanding, the county commission collected all the estimates, the things that you have, and sent that to me. So I haven't done research. I've just spoken to Mr. Foster, and they feel pretty confident that this is really close to what the cost would be.
I would make a motion that we give you the authority up to 20,000 to go ahead and proceed and work with county officials to see if we can make this happen. Have I worded that right?
Yeah.
I like it.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion?
Yeah, where's the money gonna come from?
It would have to come from fund balance
Sundowns.
or either transportation.
Mrs. Bray, do you have any thoughts on where the money would come from?
Well, like Ms. Boston said, it would either come from fund balance or somewhere in the transportation budget. Now, obviously, it was not budgeted because I was not aware of this during the budgeting process.
Yeah.
But I think it would be well worth it. It's been talked about ever since I've been here
It's a need.
by all departments.
And it's a need, not a want. I mean, it's a need.
And since we're
else does
only
the
responsible for 40% of it, that's not a huge investment, and I think our employees that utilize that,
Every day.
Yeah.
that pump station would be grateful.
Yeah,
Mr. Stepp, or not Mr. Stepp, but Mr. Safety, I'm sorry.
I'm fine.
You're fine? Okay. Well, since it involved, I didn't get a second. Oh, Shannon
She did,
seconded.
Shannon did.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. King, any comments? Okay. I'm gonna do a roll call because it involves money.
I have something to say. Do you feel, Ms. Bray, do you feel like we have the money somewhere?
I think we can find $17,000. I think it's a solid investment for the county.
And we've got other people willing to do their share, so I think it's
Yeah.
good.
Okay. Ms. Stoll? Yes. Mr. Safdie?
Yes.
Ms. Nichols?
Yes.
Ms. Hale? Ms.
Yes.
Stout?
Yes.
Mr. King? And Ms. Boston votes yes. Motion carries.
Okay, the next item is, I'm requesting your approval to appoint Dr. Farley as our district testing coordinator again for this year. She was last year.
I'll make a motion.
I second it.
Feel free. I'll make a motion, we approve. You gonna say it?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Where's Becky at? Where she declines or rejects?
She didn't show up.
There you go, she gets the job
She's not here, she
automatically.
got it, yeah.
All right, all in favor?
You're not here, you
Aye. Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Mr. King voted aye. Motion carries.
Next is also something we do every year, just getting your approval on those that'll serve on the disciplinary hearing authority committee for the county, my designees.
They only sit 3 at a time, right?
Correct, it rotates, so we try to get as many with experience on that board so they can rotate who's available.
Okay.
Motion to approve the board?
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
We have a first and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Mr. King voted aye. Motion carries.
Next is the Uplands sewer contract. So what has happened, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Bray, but the cost have went up. So it requires a new contract.
Folks, we had a contract that initially started in 2008. It was an 8-year, it was actually a 4-year contract that automatically renewed for 4 years, so it technically expired in 2016. But they kept providing us water at the same rate that they had provided it for a number of years. And so they gave us notice that they were increasing the water rate. And so I drafted a contract that would just extend things for another period of time with the higher rate. I don't know how much negotiating there really is
Kind of need it.
concerning the water rate. They provided it to us for a long time at the lower rate. So I did draft this contract, and
I'll
I
make
think
a
it says
motion.
everything it needs to say.
I'll make a motion, we approve.
Second.
Okay, so we have a first and second discussion. Ms. Bray, did we budget for this increase?
Yes.
We did budget for this increase.
I think what I budgeted, what I increased, it will accommodate this.
Okay, so this, because it's a fairly substantial increase.
Yes.
And with that being said,
But it only affects one location.
right,
So, I mean, in the big scheme of things, we should be fine. Because we did not receive increases anywhere else.
okay, okay. But you're saying it is in the 23-24 budget? Okay, that's all question I had. Anyone else?
How much was the increase?
It was substantial. It went from, Earl, correct me. I mean, it's gonna be about $1,500 a month.
Yeah.
Current rate is $15.21 per 1,000 gallons. And
Our annual usage went up too. They were showing.
That's what it, wow. It's going up to $1,600 a month.
that's correct.
It has increased from $4.50 per 1,000 gallon to $15.21 per 1,000 gallon.
That's
So about a $9 increase per 1,000 gallon.
You have to have it.
Okay, Tracy. Ms. Butler, you're gonna have to go easy on the water.
Make sure there's no leaks anywhere. All the pipes are in working order.
I have to pay that bill at home too, I understand.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. I appreciate that. Any further discussion? Okay, now we are just agreed, okay. Mr. King? There's a first and a second. Everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Let the record reflect that Mr. King voted aye. Motion carried.
Next item is what we do every meeting, show you the progress of the annual planning calendar that we're currently working on. And next item is personnel reports. We do that each month also. And school calendars that are in so far. High schools are already moving and shaking, and everybody's getting ready for the beginning of the year. We had 2 freshman orientations this week, so that was fun. So we enjoyed that. And I think that completes the director's report.
Thank you.
One question. Did I see correctly that we have hired 55 new teachers?
Yeah, I think I sent some pictures out to you guys. They met today, so it was a lot of fun. We had some new teacher training. So there are some new teachers, some veteran teachers, but new to Cumberland County. So it was great to get to know them today, and they did a great job training with them and kicking off their year today.
Cool.
So do we have a number of open teaching positions at
Yes,
this
we
point?
still have some open. We have some that we can't hire because we're waiting on the budget to be approved.
Yeah.
So we're just in that process right now.
But it sounds like we've gotten a good amount.
Good amount,
start.
but we're
Better
still
start
missing.
this year.
We got some high school position that are holes that we're having to adjust adjust the master schedule with
Yeah.
so that we can cover those holes. They're just some positions, they're just not out there.
Do we have some folks in the pipeline from when we get budget approved? We can move forward with that?
We're trying. Schools have already started.
Yeah, it's
so-
hard to do after the start of the school year.
Yeah, but we're trying to line those up and get those allegiances set up so that they'll come.
I know Putnam County posted they had 110 new teachers.
Yeah, they ended up, a lot. But they still have more open positions than we do right now, I think, so.
They would, but 110, I mean,
Yeah.
where'd these teachers come from?
A lot of it's, people moving in.
Moving in.
We got
Yep.
several veterans that have moved in to take positions from Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, all over the place.
Well, that's
That
great.
is certainly under.
Yeah, since one of our top strategic plan items is attracting and retaining top talent. So, yeah, it's
Retention,
good.
correct.
Yeah.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is school board committees, policy committee. Chairman, Ms. Hamby is not with us tonight. Ms. Stoll, would you please?
Yes, we have 25 policies that are for first and final reading that came out of policy committee, and make a motion to approve.
And it does not require a second because it came out of committee. Is there any discussion on any of the policies? And this is the approval of the first and final reading.
Correct.
No discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect that Mr. King voted aye, and the motion carries. All of those policies have been approved. Next will be your policies for deletion.
Correct. We had 2 policies that were duplicate policies, and those have also come out of committee. Do we need a second?
No.
So I make a motion to approve the deletion of these 2 policies.
Okay, it does not require a second. Any discussion on deleting these policies? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect that Mr. King voted aye, and motion carries. Those 2 policies can be deleted. Thank you, Ms. Stoll. Next on the agenda is the athletic committee. I think Mr. Davis is worn out from the athletic committee, and he is not here tonight, so we'll bypass that. Next is the budget committee. We've not had another meeting. We're waiting for the county to approve our budget. We're kind of on hold. Building and grounds, Mr. Safety.
We did not have a meeting this month, but we are planning to have a meeting next Monday, a week from now.
Next Monday?
First,
The 7th, the first Monday in August. Yeah,
at 4:30?
4:30.
At 4:30.
Okay, perfect. Next on the agenda is the Safety Committee meeting, and Ms. Hamby is not here, but I don't recall having.
We've not had one
We've
yet.
not
Okay,
had one.
we've not had a
waiting
meeting,
for
so
the-
there's nothing to report.
Right.
Contract Committee, we've not had a meeting, so there is nothing to report. Next on the agenda is the Chief Financial Officer's report. Ms. Brack?
Well, even though our year has closed, just keep in mind that this is not the final. I have submitted everything that I personally have, but there's some other accruals that will be made at the county level, and they are working on that currently. But I feel there won't be anything huge, big adjustments. So actually, I think we did quite well. We came in within our budget. There was nothing where we were really over. Revenue came in at about 97, 98% what we had budgeted, so I always think that's pretty good because some of that's really, not really a crapshoot, but we don't really know, like things on sales tax, property tax, and things like that. So to come within that close, I think that's pretty good, and we were at 94.4% of our expenditures.
Okay.
So I don't see anything radically that will change in this, so I think all in all, we did a very good year.
Do we have any construction going on that money is still reflected in this budget?
Yes, we have what we allotted for our part of the project at CCHS, but ESSER will pay everything that they have money for first, and then we will kick in at the very end. But yes, that has been appropriated in the maintenance
And that's
line.
reflected in that?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It's been encumbered, because we have an open PO where nothing has been expended, but it has been encumbered.
Okay.
Sales tax wise, I spoke with the county finance director. They're still working out his final accrual on that, but it does appear that we will come ahead of where he had budgeted. Not as much as we had originally hoped, but probably somewhere around $100,000. So we'll take it.
Yes. 100,000, 100,000, we'll take it.
We'll take it. We're not going to turn it back.
No.
We only have a couple of budget amendments, and this is from the federal world. This is just some things that they needed to clean up, kind of from last year, some things that happened after the fact. I was instructed by the county finance director. I know Ms. Boston had requested me to make a budget amendment, which I will do, but since it had not been approved, he requested that we not amend a budget that wasn't approved yet.
And I wondered about that.
Yeah. I had it prepared, and he said, let's just hold off, because technically, the dates would not work.
Do we need to go back and reapprove that?
No.
Once our budget's committed, or since we've already approved it, at that time you can submit it?
I'll submit it whenever the budget's approved. It's
Okay.
not a problem.
I
He just said we didn't need to put a budget amendment through in GP for a budget that technically had not been approved by the county.
Well, that was kind
Yeah.
of my thoughts.
These others are just on federal budgets and just some things that they have to clean up, because the federal world kind of operates in its own little world.
Yeah. That's for sure.
So, I'm looking.
I think CTE had a couple, and then there was one to do with ESSER 3.0, I believe.
Yeah.
But they're all federal.
2
Is it
Perkins
the
and 1
Perkins?
Esser.
It was, but are they just to clean up?
They are. I think didn't we receive some extra money?
Ours is new money.
Is it new money? Okay.
Both are new money.
Is that the Perkins?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Leslie's always getting people to give her more money.
She's good, Leslie.
She's good.
So the Perkins were both new money, those resolutions. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and
The ESSER is just a cleanup for some things we need to do from prior year.
okay. I'll make a motion that we approve the 142 budget amendments.
I'll second it.
So we have a first and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Stoll?
Yes.
Mr. Safdie?
Yes.
Ms. Nichols?
Yes.
Ms. Hale?
Yes.
Ms. Stout?
Yes.
Mr. King? And Ms. Boston votes yes, so those have been approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is great.
Thanks, Ms. Brown.
Next on the agenda is the consent agenda.
I move to accept the consent agenda.
We have a first from Ms. Hale.
Second?
We have a second from Ms. Stoll. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda?
Let the field trips begin.
Amen.
Hey, look, I remember the year we didn't go on field trips so gladly. So no discussion, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries, consent agenda has been approved. Okay, any old business?
I just had an item, since we rolled on with we're being very efficient with our agenda tonight.
I know.
Rolled right
It's
on.
good.
After the survey presentation that Earl gave, I'd like to make a motion for us to get together as
It's not on the agenda, you can't make a motion.
a board. It's related to his report.
But there was no indication that there would be any voting. It was just for information purposes only.
Okay. Well, then I'd like to suggest, I'm going to make a motion, that the board work together on a date, that we can all get together to go over the items that we've identified as challenge areas. So we can discuss, now that we've had a year under our belt, to work together with the new folks
Good.
and the existing board members, how we can move forward productively this next year
As a
and work on
team.
those challenge areas as a team. Yeah.
Like Earl said, we need team building.
Is that a suggestion that we have a work session on the evaluation system?
Yeah, yeah.
That would be
And
nice.
hopefully before our August meeting, since school starts in August and everything's rolling in August, Mr. Stepp starts his new school year and everything.
We get a budget.
Well, Madam Chairman, can you arrange that?
Probably not before August. August 1st is next
No,
Wednesday.
no, the August board meeting, just for the August
we
board
got-
meeting.
okay, then.
Yeah,
Well, you
not before
said
August
in
1st, before the
August,
August
and I'm
board
going,
meeting. Yeah,
I'm not sure.
before we
Not
meet
to the
again as the
beginning, I'm
board.
going to be in
Before that.
California for a week, so it needs to be later in August.
Are there any special call meetings in August planned?
Not at this point.
Okay. What I'm thinking is, if you have a special call meeting, we could piggyback that prior to that special call meeting.
That would possibly work. Yes,
Good idea.
It is a good idea.
we'll look at that.
Strong team.
Questions from the media?
She's like,
Heather, welcome back.
Hi-
I know
hi,
we're going to
Heather.
miss Mo, but we missed you more. I'm sorry. You've been with us for such a long time. Not enough hours in the day. But welcome back.
no, they are not. I agree.
Any other discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, yeah, second.
We have a first and we have a second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Let the record reflect that Mr. King
He said aye.
voted aye.
Mr. King?